Hi everyone. Thanks so much for joining the session today. I'm Victor, a sales team lead here, based out of Singapore. My areas of focus are in the Singapore and Malaysia markets. So in the next 15 minutes, we are going to focus on ransomware, as if everyone has not heard enough of ransomware in the last few weeks, months, and years. In this session, we are going to talk specifically about how AI can surgically contain ransomware in some cases in less than a minute. So before we go and see what ransomware looks like today and some of the trends that we are seeing, we are going to talk about who DarkTrace is. So DarkTrace was founded in 2013 by mathematicians. We are headquartered in Cambridge, UK, and I'm proud to say that we are the fastest growing cybersecurity company according to the report on Financial Times. Most importantly, we are the first to market with artificial intelligence for comprehensive cyber defense, and we are the creators of autonomous response technology, which we are going to focus on today. So let's talk about the threat landscape that we are all living in today. Now we are rounding the corner. The world is very slowly reopening right now. And I hope that we can get back to a sense of normalcy soon. But because of what we have gone through in the last 2 years, the threat landscape looks very different from back then. So let's take a look at a quote from Forrester. The new era of offensive AI leverages various forms of machine learning to supercharge cyber attacks, resulting in unpredictable, contextualized, speedier, stealthier assaults that can cripple unprotected organizations. So let's look back in the past few months, past year. We saw the SolarWinds supply chain attack, the Hafnium exchange compromise, the Colonial Pipeline attack. It's safe to say that the threat landscape is getting more and more unpredictable than before. So the quote to me is very important because I think folks don't realize that offensive AI, the opposite of what DarkTrace is doing right now, is on the very near horizon, and in some cases it's actually already here, right? So threat actors are using machine learning and AI and natural language processing to make their spear phishing so much more realistic, duping even the most experienced practitioners in clicking onto the phishing links. So let's talk a bit about why the threat landscape is now different. Obviously, remote work has created a lot of new threat vectors for us. Most of you guys are probably still remote working as well. I'm pretty excited that we are starting to open things back up, but hybrid remote work environment is probably here to stay for quite some time. And it has really opened up a lot more attack vectors. So additionally, our networks are more disparate than ever. All right, we are now in the cloud, SaaS, more so than before. Digital transformation was literally accelerated overnight when the pandemic hit. And we are relying more on collaboration tools right now. Email is still one of the poorest points of our networks, and our networks just get more and more complex. So believe it or not all ransomware is treated equal. There has been a lot of different types of ransomware out there, and some of this might be reviewed for some of you, but some of you might not even have heard of this, right? First and foremost, double threat ransomware is becoming a real major problem. Recently, we have seen just in the last couple of months, big corporations are not just getting hit with ransom, they are also being threatened with dumping of sensitive information. And in the double threat ransomware case, the attacker not just only infiltrates the network and sets up the payload to get ready for encrypting all the devices, but before doing so, they actually exfiltrate data from the network. It is a second form of blackmail to speak of. So for the attackers to use against the victim in hopes of pressurizing them, even more so into paying, now that's another topic for another day, the morals, the decisions, should we even pay these criminals after all? But double threat ransomware is absolutely on the rise. So in today's presentation, legacy ransomware is just what it sounds like. It is the old school ransomware that we are all very familiar with. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Either it's getting smarter or it's getting more and more sophisticated. But more importantly, right, we are finding attackers getting more and more brazen, attacking things like hospitals, school systems, and really just about anybody they can get their hands on. And last but not least, we have got lower level threat actors even renting ransomware as a service. You have heard me mention the Colonial Pipeline attack earlier, right? That was a great example of it. The DarkSide group is a perfect example of it. They run a ransomware as a service program where you can essentially rent their platform. And in some of these criminal organizations, believe it or not, they even offer 24/7 help desk. So it's really a business to these criminals. And last but not least, increased internet-facing attack surface. In the last slide, we briefly talked about a new digital landscape that we are all working in. What it means is that we have increased our digital footprint, right? The internet-facing surface, and we are seeing RDP being exploited left and right now, not exploited in the traditional sense. So folks literally come in through the front door, brute force these RDP protocols that were accidentally or intentionally exposed to the internet. And I think you'll start to see the trend and attacks that we have seen so far. So the cost of ransomware should not come as a surprise to any one of us here, right? We have seen sums of 4.1 million being paid for ransom for Colonial, 40 million from a major insurance provider. These are not small sums of numbers, right? So just to throw across some numbers at you, right? In Q4 2019, and I apologize that I will have to dig out some of the latest stats for you, but there was a 104% average increase in ransomware payment, right? So now the scary thing is that if that was in Q4 2019, I can only imagine what we could be looking at in 2021. We saw 133,000 as the average cost of ransomware attacks per business, 8,100 as the average cost of ransomware per incident. Now, I just want everyone to take a step back and think about it. Some of us listening now are not major Fortune 500 publicly traded companies with massive amounts of resources. Some of us are small and medium-sized businesses, and just an average cost of 133,000 can really take a chunk of our revenue stream, right? These are not small numbers to bet an eye at, and we really need to take this very seriously. As I mentioned before, this is Q4 2019. The numbers are just going to go up, and they're moving up at an exponential pace. So with that, I want to bring you to next talk about DarkTrace's autonomous response. How is it doing for our customers, and how we could potentially help you guys out. So all the trends that I've been speaking about just really highlights the need for self-learning AI. And really the benefit of this approach is that it learns directly from an environment, right? Rather than relying on existing rules or requiring extensive setup. You know, it's no surprise that legacy security systems just simply can't keep up with the new pace of ransomware. Attackers are constantly trying to generate new mutations, trying new tactics in order to get into an environment, right? So DarkTrace's self-learning AI learns what normal looks like for devices and users across your entire enterprise. And in this, it establishes a sense of self that is able to differentiate what normal activity looks like, what anomalous looks like, that may indicate a threat to your environment. Self-learning AI can also be applied to all different kind of environments, from traditional networks to SaaS applications to even your industrial systems. So through highlighting abnormal behavior, AI can then identify new and emerging threats in real time. And that is such an important foundation, right? First and foremost is to detect ransomware in an environment. Secondly, it is to respond to it. And so with the response, we take autonomous response based on this self-learning approach just to detect potential threats. Moving beyond the cyber AI that can also be applied autonomously to respond to threats without requiring human confirmation. Entergina is an autonomous response technology. It is able to surgically interrupt attacks, taking precise and proportionate actions in order to contain the threat without disrupting normal business activities. And it's really absolutely crucial that cyber AI can respond in seconds, keeping pace with machine speed attacks that we are seeing right now. So you know, another factor that we haven't talked about in the recent trend of ransomware yet is out of office hours attack, right? Many of these attackers are deploying ransomware overnight, on weekends, holidays, so that can cause the most amount of damage to an organization without them realizing it, or without having eyes on your security systems as it happens. And so with cyber AI, autonomous response is really about buying security teams time during an in-progress attack, stopping the attack in its tracks, preventing it from spreading across your entire environment and giving your security teams time to actually get in and respond and investigate. So autonomous response is fully customizable, fully controllable based on your specific business needs and risk thresholds. So I think that is a very important thing to mention as we think about moving towards autonomous response. So the last and final piece of the cyber AI puzzle, fitting in with the detection and the response which I've shared earlier, is our cyber AI analyst, which augments security teams. By automating that investigation and triage stage so that cyber AI analyst does all the heavy lifting of an investigation. I think everyone here is very familiar with the investigation process. We are just spending time sifting through logs, looking for needle in a haystack, and oftentimes not coming out with anything fruitful at all. But with the power of cyber AI, it is able to gain context and piece together large quantities of information, most importantly at machine speed, in order to reach conclusions about a potential threat and then present that information to the security team, right? Helping security teams to understand threats and also start from a place of information, giving them all the technical details so that they can jump into response and the remediation stage. So cyber analyst continuously updates itself when new information is discovered, and it scales indefinitely. All right, this isn't limited by the size of an organization or by the severity of an attack. And so in all of this, it has saved security teams a lot of valuable time. All right, reducing the time to triage by close to 92%, allowing teams to respond quickly in an attack. So coupled with autonomous response, which is stopping an attack in its tracks, cyber AI analyst works alongside it to present a narrative of the attack, giving teams all the technical information so that they can quickly respond to the threats, such as some of the ransomware attacks that I shared earlier. And really, if I'm driving something across, it is that our AI learns from your business and not from the threats. So this is all I've prepared for everyone today. And if you need more resources, you can refer to our websites and blogs and all the good work that my colleagues have put up and that we are doing with dealing with ransomware. And if you're not a car person, I'd like to drive your attention to the rear wing of the F1 car, the McLaren racing team. They are using DarkTrace right now to protect them against all the cyber threats that are happening all the time. We're also sponsoring them, and these are what some of our happy customers are saying about us. And I'd like to thank everybody here today for spending time with me to talk about what DarkTrace is doing for ransomware. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can reach out to me directly on my number, email, or simply hit me up on my LinkedIn to talk about anything cyber AI. Thank you so much for your time.